All right, so thank you everybody for joining us today for our community conversation call on June 30th. I have myself, Shanye, and Geraldine, and we are your host for today to send you off into the new season. So this is actually our last call before our summer break. So you'll find a link in the chat to sign up to join us back next year. Even if you have already signed up for this call, we're starting over. So go ahead and sign up using that link and you'll get all of the updates in the schedule for the upcoming year. We have an amazing speaker, Jyothi, today, who will be introduced by Geraldine in just a moment. But we have a great topic. We're going to kick off this session with a question of the day. So what practices do you have in your life that gives you a sense of calm? So go ahead and post those in the chat. Let's see what we got. Acupuncture. Ooh, Mary. Yoga. Geraldine, do you have a practice?
I practice yoga like almost every day. So that's definitely part of my mental and spiritual sort of daily practice.
Yay. I'm going to a yoga class this weekend, so I'm excited. Yeah, I do plants. I have lots of plants and they bring me as much zen and calm as possible. So I'm going to be looking in the chat and see who else does plants so we can share photos of all of the growth we've had this past year. Yeah, Kristen, watering the garden. Like, I love it. I love it, love it, love it. All right, keep those ideas coming into the chat and those practices that you currently have. If you all want to read through them, we will have this transcript posted on the forum. It's great to kind of see what else is out there, and you might be able to pick up some of those practices yourself. All right. I'll also open up the floor for national updates. If you have any national updates, now is the time to share them. You can unmute yourself or post in the chat. We do ask that you keep your update to around 1 minute, just so we can make space for everyone on the call to go ahead and give us that information. So does anyone have any national updates?
I have one. I'm Kristen at the Community Cats podcast. Coming up on July 19th from 10 to 5 p.m. Eastern time, we have the online feline leukemia day. We do it every year. And it's a great opportunity to find out what has been discovered, what treatments are available, what is new in the world of feline leukemia. And we have some great speakers. I will put a link in the chat, but I hope to see lots of you guys there.
Thank you, Kristen. FELV cats are some of my favorite at Operation Kindness, so we love seeing them find new homes. So that's going to be very interesting for me. I didn't know there was a national day, so that's awesome.
Hi, everyone. It's LP from Haas. As you may or may not know, Lost Pet Reunification is one of the Haas 4 pathways. And this Thursday, or Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to be offering office hours. This is something new that we're offering for Haas partners. So if you're interested, please sign up to be a partner, but it is in support of our Lost Pet Reunification assessment. So the assessments really help you kind of see where your organization might have gaps. And then we make recommendations to support your programming development. But sometimes I think it's a little daunting when you look at our website and getting signed up. So here's an opportunity for you to all have one-on-one time with a Haas team member. So I'm going to put in both the Haas Playbook assessment link and then the link to sign up for either Wednesday or Thursday.
Thank you, Elke. All right. Oh, I love that. Do we have any other national updates coming? Okay, I will take my time to plug in some of my own. So we have our Texas Unites conference coming up next April. If you are in the area, surrounding states, or you just want to come visit Texas, we do invite everyone to join us, even if you aren't local to this region. We will be opening speaker updates soon. So I'm going to go ahead. Thank you, Allison, for popping that into the chat. You can sign up using the little email slot below, and we'll let you know when those open. We're really excited. I love first-time speakers. I love hearing about all of the new things that are going on in your organizations. So I encourage every single person to submit. I don't work for Humane World for Animals, but I'm also throwing out the plug that they have submissions open until July 17th. So again, if you're interested in speaking, even if it's your very first time, I recommend that you do apply so that we can hear more about what your organizations are doing. All right. And again, feel free to post your updates in the chat, even if it's further down the line. This transcript will be posted in Maddie's forum so that you can go ahead and read through all of these responses at a later time. All right, so now that we're done with the national updates, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Geraldine if you want to kick us off for the rest of the call.
Thank you so much, Shania, and thanks for co-hosting. It's always a joy. So good morning, everyone. And we're really glad to have you all here with us today because this is our final Maddie's Community Conversation of the season. But like Shania said, we're going to have a new registration link and the link's going to be posted in the chat. So you do need to register for the next sessions that are going to be coming up after our summer break. So before we hand it off to our incredible speaker of the day, we just wanted to share some gratitude. So on behalf of the Maddie's Community Conversations Steering Committee, I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of you because you have been part of this community. You've been showing up and sharing and supporting each other week after week. And it's been such a joy to see both familiar faces as well as new faces joining the conversation. So thank you. We'd also like to say a huge thank you to the team behind the scenes that make these calls possible. So thank you, Allison Gibson and Charlotte and Sheila, and of course, the rest of the incredible Maddie's Fun team. And to all of our speakers throughout the year, thank you for your time, for your stories, for your inspiration, and of course, your commitment to animal welfare. So it's been an absolute honor for me to be part of this learning as well as these meaningful conversations. So today, we're going to be closing out the season with something special. We're thrilled to welcome Dr. Jyothi Robertson, who actually needs no introduction. Dr. Jyothi Robertson is going to be guiding us through an experience that's going to be designed to be both nourishing as well as uplifting. So it's a perfect transition for us into the summer months. At the end of the conversation today, Mary's going to send us off into the summer with a few parting words as we wrap up this chapter. So now over to you, Jyothi.
Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. Hi, Shania, Geraldine. Thank you both. So nice to have you both as the hosts of today and to be here. I am going to share my screen right from the start. So let me just get this up and going. So what was that? Sorry.
Looks great.
Oh, okay, great. So thank you for that. Let me also make sure I close the side box so I can actually see my slides. It's always helpful. About a week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago, and I'd say it's about 2 weeks ago, I was asked to give this talk, and I was trying to place myself back into like what it feels like. A little background: I was practicing, veterinarian full time from 2005 to 2013 as a shelter vet for the city of Oakland. But then along the way, I did a residency and then became a consultant. So my job somewhat changed over time. But as I was thinking about this, I chose this as a title: Stillness Amidst the Summer Surge. And really was sitting with, what does summer mean to me? And I was noticing that it's really changed over time. When I was a child, okay, a little background. Sorry, I'm being a little bit choppy because I'm realizing not everybody knows me, but my birthday falls on the solstice, the summer solstice. And so I love summer from that standpoint, but on the downside is when you're a kid in summer solstice and your birthday falls on it, no one's around to celebrate your birthday with you. So I always had this mixed feeling about summer, but I liked not having school. It was a time to, relax, not have a break, so on. And then 2005, I became a shelter veterinarian. And all of a sudden, my relationship to summer shifted because, as you all know, summer is when our peak really hits in our field, right? We have kitten season, we have the extremes of weather, we have, hot temperatures, so you have to walk dogs at odd hours and so on. And I became really focused in on being in summer. And 2013, I became a consultant. I was able to take a step back from that day-to-day work. And what I realized and what really came back to me is that, the seasons happen, that summer is there. So for me, summer is this top right photo, by the way. This might not look like summer for everyone, but I am in California. So there's no grass. That is fake turf in the background. And that's my dog, Pepper. So that's what summer looks like for me. And it's, yes, we're in the heart of everything. But then fall comes and winter again, when things slow down, and then spring when everything's blooming again. And so this talk, I was asked to speak about and basically share some practices with all of you that you might take into summer. And really the first thing I want to share is that reminder that this is one of the seasons. And yes, when we're in it, it's all encompassing. It's all hands on deck. We're all working really hard. And at some point, the seasons will pass and we'll get to winter and we'll be reflecting back on summer. So just a reminder. And yet when we talk about, like when I'm talking about it today with all of you, what I wanted to do was bring in this idea of a day in summer. So let's come into the summer months and let's actually think about what it means to be in, I'm thinking 12 hours, which is why the title is 12 Zen practices. I was envisioning from the time of waking up to the time of maybe going back home to, after a day's work. What are 12 practices that we might consider bringing into our lives in different ways? Like maybe it's one of these 12, or maybe you're already doing 6 of these, but you hadn't really thought of it as a practice. So that's where I'm guiding us today, is into these 12 practices. And again, take what you wish and just keep an open mind as you're listening to these. So for me, morning, I was thinking waking up at 6 a.m. So that's 6 to 7 o'clock hour. Some of you, if you're in Arizona and walking dogs, you're going to be up at 3. It's very different. But that idea of waking up with an intention. Begin with an intention. Oh, by the way, the phrases that I'm using come from both Zen and Dzogchen, which are 2 Buddhist traditions that I originate, that are part of my family. They show up in many other traditions as well, but that's why they're framed in this very particular way. And so begin with intention. When I say begin with intention, what I'm really talking about, and I'm going to write it right here so that it's kind of clear, is how we're showing up, for the world. So right when we're waking up, how are we showing up? Like what sort of mindset are we wanting to enter the day with? My team does this kind of on a weekly, monthly basis. And you can do this on the hour or at the beginning of the day, but you can think about, well, what is it that I'm facing this today? So I'm going to give you a few examples of what an intention might look like. let's say that I am going into a new training and I've been working at a shelter for the past 20 years and I've been working this particular job, in animal care. And for the first time, we have a new training. And so my intention in the morning might be to be curious, right? So that way, when I go into the training, I'm not automatically comparing it to how I'm doing. I might take a step back and just listen to what's happening. Or another attention might be to be open. For me today, I set the intention of being present. And that's because I want to be right here with all of you while I'm doing this talk and not thinking about the Shakira concert that I'm going to tonight. So this is just an example of how you can begin your day with an intention. Okay. The next one is to develop rituals. So after my morning routine around 7 to 8, I think about having a cup of coffee or maybe a cup of hot chocolate. That's what this is, because I prefer hot chocolate. Usually when I'm working at a shelter or doing a clinic, it'll be just filling up my water bottle. So maybe the ritual is noticing that I'm filling up my water bottle and just watching the water come in, closing it, putting it into my bag, getting my key, and viewing that as a ritual changes sort of the significance of this daily activity that I'm doing, right? And noticing that throughout the day. This again, I'm framing this as 12 hours, but this can happen at any time. Creating rituals creates some sacredness around the normalcy of our day, the activities that we might not view in that way now hold some significance and meaning to us. So the second practice that I invite you to consider is to develop some rituals. And the third is to do things slowly and deliberately. So now in my day, I'm viewing myself as having taken that water bottle, I put it into my bag, I got into the car, I went into the shelter. Now I'm entering, and there is a lot of activity that's happening. People asking me to see a particular animal. I have to go check my email. There's, the to-do lists that I have to do. And my invitation to you is to be deliberate. Slow down just for a moment in that beginning space and take that moment to ground yourself in being at work and then move forward. It doesn't mean that you have to be slow, like actually physically slow at everything. What it means is that in your mind that you're being really intentional about how you're moving through your day. And sometimes it does mean actually slowing down, because speeding through things can lead to mistakes, as we know. So that distinction of being deliberate and slow can get you to where it is you want to be. As you see my tortoise kind of navigating this hill and getting to where she wants to be. The next is to do one thing at a time and be one with the activity. So now I'm viewing like 9 a.m., 9 to 10. In my case, this is the middle of a clinic. It's a beautiful photo taken by Kathy Kinnear, who's a volunteer at Oakland's clinics. Or it could be you're in the midst, in surgery. And so when you're with that activity, what I ask you to do is be with that activity. Another way that this has often framed in the Dzogchen tradition is just this. So if I'm with this dog doing a physical exam, just that. I think that's self-explanatory. So my next is to let go of the unnecessary. Okay, so let go of, here it could be because you're at that mid time of the morning to look at your list and actually physically let go of what you've decided is not necessary to do today because it's not fulfilling what it is that you had set out to do. Or in the deeper sense, what this means is it means letting go of the mental things that are holding you down. Letting go of the email that you read when you sat at your computer that has you frustrated, that now you're dwelling on, which means you're dwelling in the past as, instead of being right there, in the present. And again, this is an invitation at any point to just take a breath and say, okay, I'm here. I'm going to let go of that. Or if it's something that needs to be taken care of later, I'm going to set that aside in my mind. It's okay to say that this is not the time for that and that I can do that later, and then move forward. The next is to listen. So I put this around noon simply because this is when my stomach is growling and I'm thinking about food, and we often are listening to everybody else. What does it look like to take a moment to just listen to yourself and listen to your body? It might mean listening to others as well, but tune in to what it is you need. And again, I go back to my experience. So it could look like it's noon, you're still doing surgery, and you realize that you're dehydrated. So you might need to ask your technician to bring you a bottle of water with a straw so that you can take a sip under your mask and rehydrate your body, because that's what your body needs in that moment. So it could be just listening in that moment. It can also mean listening to the sounds around us, taking a break to walk through the shelter and actually listen to the sounds of the shelter, and do that sort of as a meditation. So just noticing the sounds themselves. And perhaps it means noticing the sounds where your attention needs to go, because that's where your job is calling you. Or it can be noticing the sounds as sounds, simply as sounds that you are not going to place a role or an activity towards, but that you are allowing to come in without a feeling of dread or overwhelm or whatever it is that you might have sometimes when hearing those sounds. The next is to let daily tasks become mindful practice. And so here I want to give a little bit of an example. So one that gets talked about a lot is, just eating. Like when you're eating, what does mindful eating look like? So it might be as you're chewing, thinking about the taste, the texture, the smell, just one bite. It doesn't need to be an hour of mindful eating at work while you're in the midst of everything else, but it could be one single bite where you're really present with that one bite. Just noticing it and fully acknowledging it and appreciating it. or maybe not appreciating it, noticing that too. And that's fine as well. If you have the time, what I like to do is think about all the people who kind of touched, the food. And when I say touched, I don't mean physically touched the food. I mean, like folks that packaged it, that maybe were the ones that transported it to the store, the farmers, go all the way back. And then you can take it all the way to gratitude, for the land, for the earth, for the soil. You can, with that one bite can encompass so much more, right? Because it encompasses these layers of individuals, of species, of circumstances, of nature that all came together to allow for that bite to occur, right? And so there's a lot around that. Now, in a shelter, you can think of a daily practice as laundry and cleaning as well. So you might do a similar thing with towels and folding the towel, like taking the time to just be with that for a moment. And then that becomes a practice in itself. Just in that moment, pausing and being aware that that's what you're doing. Okay. Let me clear this out. And this is one of my favorites. It's around afternoon time. You've been there a long time, and sometimes people are getting very tired. I love the notion of smiling at this point, smiling softly. And maybe it'll resonate with you when I say that, like, if you can imagine yourself in the afternoon and you're walking through and you see somebody at the shelter who you may or may not know, and they turn to you and they give you a genuine smile. There's something that just opens up when people genuinely smile at each other. And it opens up for the person that's maybe receiving that smile. It definitely opens up for the person that's doing the smiling. I've given a smile meditation in the past, which might drop into the chat right now. And this is one that was actually rooted more in science, but it comes from a long history of different types of practices. But a smile crosses cultures, right? It crosses cultures, ages. They've done these studies in babies where they recognize the smile of individuals. And smiling reduces stress by increasing these endorphin flows. So the physical act of smiling, even when you might not be feeling like a smile is what you want in that moment, honor whatever it is you are feeling and consider a smile, because it might give you that release that you need in that moment. Walk lightly can mean the physical walking of just walking lightly, meaning taking a gentle step, observing your steps. And it also means it's similar to the letting go. It's being light with yourself and letting go of any of the things that might have not worked out in your day so far. So being light with your emotions, which weigh on us and create a heavy step, relieving ourselves of those emotions can now create some lightness. And so this is Katara, my dog, smiling, two of her friends. And then I come to 3 to 4 time, where we're kind of not yet done because we still have to give maybe evening meds and do final cleaning if you do spot cleaning or full, and then get into adoptions if you have evening adoptions, and connect with your fosters and so on, and whatever meetings or other things you might do at your place. It's a moment where you can pause. The simple act of pausing, and this again at any point in your day, creates space. So maybe you've been mulling over something all day that you're trying to fix or change or do, and the solution hasn't been coming to you. Taking a pause and stepping back can create the opening for that solution to arise naturally. Because our thoughts aren't so focused on what it is that we're doing. It opens our minds up to something new. And it also gives us a break, because at this moment, that might be exactly what we need, just for a moment, to take a pause and just have a breath and remind ourselves of what it is to be human. And acknowledge that and give ourselves just a moment of compassion, to be able to just pause and say, we don't have to be running this entire time. We can just pause. My next in this next hour is to honor the time for what's important. In this case, it might be watching my cat Bernie playing, or it might be needing to go pick up your kids at camp after camp is done, because this is the time for pickups. It might be planning out what you're going to do in the evening, with your friends. So taking a moment to think about what's really important to you. What is it that drives who you are and that fills you up with energy and love and laughter and happiness, and honoring that you need time for that. And so setting that time or thinking about when that time will be, like maybe it's knowing that at 7 p.m. you're going to a movie with your friends, and just honoring that. By the way, this was not staged. This is my cat, Eloise, who decided to sit on top of my meditation cushion on my flower carpet that's in the background. So number 11 is to sit in stillness. I put this at the 5 to 6 o'clock time because that's when we're, excuse me, that's when we're completing our day. That's when we're thinking about, this is the end of our day. Maybe we had some things that we finished, maybe we didn't. Can we just pause, sit for just a moment in stillness, and just acknowledge ourselves, for getting through the day, for being at, 5 to 6 o'clock, for all the things that had occurred throughout those past hours. And this can happen in the beginning of the day, in the middle of the day. This can happen at any point. And this is where I've placed it here. The stillness part, the reason why I sometimes focus on sitting in stillness is because many of us are very good at being in calm while doing things still, while running, while hiking. Like, I'm thinking of the things I do, which I'm starting to do, or walking my dog. And it's beautiful. And it's so important to connect with our bodies and with nature in those ways. And here the invitation is to also just sit, for a minute in stillness and see what that experience is like for you. And then I close out my day with living simply. And here the quote that I actually really like, or the phrase or framing, which I haven't written here. Actually, you know what? I can write it here because I know how to do that. But let me see if it shows up. All right. Is simplify to amplify. Just really like that. The idea of letting all the extra things fall away and just ending your day with what it is that's simple. Live simply. And sometimes we fill up our calendars with a lot of things and a lot of stuff as well in our lives. And at the end of the day, we really don't need all those things. So think about what simple means for you to live simply. And sometimes by simplifying, we amplify, right? That which we say is even more important. Figure this out. And so these are the 12 practices I just mentioned. And I want to give us a minute in silence to look at this list and consider committing to one or two of these, or think about how you're already doing some of these, and you can intentionally be aware that that's what it is you're doing. So let's just take a minute and feel free to jot down if any of these really resonate with you or you're already doing them. You can also put them into the chat. If you probably saw, the slide changed colors based on 1 minute. So 1 minute actually happens quite quickly. But these are the 12 that I want to leave you with. And I also want to leave you with two other things. One is, as of today, there's a new module that our team has created on contemplative practices. It's there's a guidebook or practice book that goes with it that's super cool. So even if you don't do the module in full, you can get that guidebook and then share that with your teams or your staff. Robin Vincent and Lisa Remilana and my team did an incredible job with this packet and this whole module. And Erica Schaefer from Maddie's Fund, if you haven't heard or seen her, actually, you've all heard and seen her work in different ways, but she's done a beautiful job with this module as well. So that's this practice, this particular module has actual different kinds of meditations in it as well. And then there's a separate module, which I think is right in the middle here, that's much larger, and it's like has race credits and all these other things. And this contemplative practices is one subset of that, and a little bit different from it as well. And so there's those if you want. And all of these are open for anyone. There's no cost or charge or anything. It's meant to be shared. And then my ending, I wanted to end with my photos so that you knew what these photos were of. So the first, begin with intention, is my son Steele sitting on a horse named Frosty that he often rides. And then the second one is hot chocolate that I just got in Berlin. I was in Berlin 2 weeks ago and they made it look so beautiful. So I took a photo of it. I cannot do that. And the third is Torty, who's my tortoise, who's climbing up we went on a hike. So climbing up the back of the area where we run a hike. And the fourth is an Oakland Animal Services clinic that I was at, and Kathy Kinnear took that beautiful photo. And the fifth, I was actually blowing dandelion with my son, but I cut that part out of the video. And so that was us doing that. And then 6 is my cat, Leo, also known as Kittenfish, sitting on a piano. And he's actually listening to my son playing the piano. So this is the top of the piano. You can see his reflection on it. So that I thought that was apropos. 7 is Pepper, Katara, and Eloise, my cat, who should not be eating dog food, all eating dog food together. 8 is Katara, Chloe, and Jack at the sitter's house. I was traveling, and this photo is actually from just 2 days ago. Katara smiling there. And then 9 is Pepper and Katara, my 2 dogs. 10 is Bernie, my cat, who's sort of my soul cat, who actually passed away during COVID, but Bernie playing on the cat tree. 11 is Eloise sitting on a meditation cushion, and 12 is Katara out on a hill that I was hiking on. So that's it. Thank you very much. And thanks. Oh, thank you, Maddie.
Thank you so much, Jyothi. That was incredible, and I think much needed for all of us. And the chat has been going nonstop. I think there was also a question someone had. It was from Adrian saying, our board uses a group chat to communicate. So easy for someone to spew negativity about people when an animal has been treated badly. I point out compassion for others, and we don't know everyone's full story. Other members respond. The chat is a safe space to air grievances. Anger and frustration are legitimate human responses. How do you suggest extending these practices to help a group of board members?
Yes, that's a great question, because there's truth in saying that anger is the way to cut through. Anger is rooted in passion, and the other side of that is compassion, right? So if we can go with that, the next step, then you're in these practices. So it might look like having a separate place where people can maybe anonymously write down and vent whatever it is that they want to vent, with acknowledgement that like we're being careful not to harm people, because there's this underlying practice of not causing harm to others that we want to maintain, right? That I want to maintain as a human being. I don't want to cause suffering in other people. And so that's something that could be talked to the board members about. How do we think about suffering of animals and humans? And that when we air our grievances like that, are we causing maybe more suffering? And yet there's place for acknowledging the practices. I do think additionally, because I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I know I'm very short on time because Mary has to speak too. The beginning is just introducing them to practices, right? It's just starting with like, okay, we've said this. I think you said you've pointed out compassion for others. So that's a starting point. And practicing compassion takes practice. So creating spaces in your board to be able to come together to practice compassion is actually worthwhile. Could that be a retreat? Could it be like a weekly practice where you all offer gratitude as well for the teams, right? And the more you start practicing gratitude for your teams and compassion, the more that becomes the norm. I hope that helps, and feel free to email me too. I mean, I can speak for a long time about that.
Yeah, that's definitely a topic I'm sure like that resonates with many of our peers across different organizations. It seems like there are more sort of like just kudos to the whole presentation and this experience, Jyothi. And I don't see any other questions unless you see some, Shanya.
Nope, I think we're good to pass it over to Mary.
Okay. Thank you, Jyothi.
Yep, thank you, everyone.
Jyothi, thank you so much. It's I always learn so much from you, and I so appreciate just your you lean in with kindness and compassion, and your heart, you share it with all of us. Thank you. It's been a while since I have, had this spot, and thank you so much for letting me have a few minutes just to thank you all for being here. It's been, as Sheila Kukan said, 42 Monday meetings this year. And for many of you, you've been to all of them. And I'm so grateful for that. And I so appreciate how much time and energy you devote to starting your week off with us. These meetings were started in response to the coronavirus. When the lockdown happened in March of 2020, we didn't know what anyone was dealing with. And these meetings were started for people to gather, to share all the questions, and eventually to share some solutions, and to be together on a journey that was scary and isolating and frightening because it was changing on a daily basis. But together we got through it. And I think it's really important to remember that even though we're all in our little Zoom boxes, we're sharing a common destiny, if you will, in the space of the human animal well-being space. And knowing that we have others to lean on, to share with, has been probably the one thing that has gotten us through. So the thing I try to remember the most is the fact that when I say no in my daily practice, it's familiar, it's a routine, it's comfortable, but it's also isolating. And when I say yes, it's scary, it's new, it's different, it's change, but it's something that allows me to share with others. It makes me to be part of something instead of being apart from something. And just like all these bamboo trees behind me, that's how I think of us together in this space. And there's strength and power to that when we come together. So I would encourage you this summer to think about new and different ways to say yes, and just to try it a little bit. But it's the summer, and as everything, I can remember teachers at 5 minutes before the bell would ring when summer vacation would start and you just wanted to get out and get away. There would always be, and for those of you who want to, here's a reading list. So I have a reading list for all of you. Braiding Sweetgrass is one of the most important books I've read in the 72 years I've been on this planet. And I just found out today from Dr. Ray that this book, there's an audio book that the author narrates, Robin Wall Kimmerer. I would encourage you to get it as an audio book, to just plug into it and just start listening to some wonderful, incredible stories about how, as it says, indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and the teaching of plants all come together. It is truly a remarkable book, and I've read it multiple times. For any of you that may have taken any of the deep listening that Mari Lou recommends, this book is a key part of it. But I've read it multiple times, and each time I read it, I find out something new. And to me, that's really an exceptional experience. The other book is called The Book of Joy, and it is a dialogue between the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. And it's kind of amazing to hear these two men come together and tease each other and talk about where their differences are and where the common ground is. And it's all done within this atmosphere of spiritual growth and development. And I think the one thing that we need in this, with the jobs that we have, is some kind of spirituality, whatever that may be, because I think that we deal with these amazing animals and amazing people and such exceptionally trying times. You know, before this year, I thought a lot about what is involved in the sheltering space. And this year has shown me that it's a whole lot more. I remember our first call in January when the woman from the Nebraska Humane Society was talking about the fact that immigration had come to their shelter and had taken someone away. And what did that mean? And suddenly I realized that there are a whole new dimension of operations and protocols and things that we now have to deal with. And not saying any judgment with that. I'm just saying that we think sometimes that we're only dealing with this amount, but actually this amount is all of this. And that's the thing that I love to remember every day, that it's a microcosm of the world around us. And how do I want to be present for it? And so thank you all for being here with us. I'm a minute over, so I'm going to wrap this up. We see you. We appreciate you. And hopefully you'll come back April 4th. Nope, August 4th. Wrong A. August 4th, we'll come back with a whole new year of presenters, presentations, ideas, things that will help us on this journey that we're on. So thank you all so much. And with that, we're out.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks, Maddie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.